What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This one's going to be called Exposing Greedy Body Shops, with a hint of insurance fraud in there. So, we just picked up a 2020 Subaru Impreza from the auction. It's totaled out. The value of the car is right around 16 to 18,000. If it was clean title, that's what insurance would have to pay out for it. And this one was just too far gone. They had to total it. The body shop's just, no way could they ever fix this thing under, let's say 70%. So what, say $15,000. So let's take a look at the car, and we will kind of assess, use our own judgment on whether or not this thing should have been totaled, and what the repair would have been like had they not started and for some reason cut it all up like a bunch of idiots. Let's see. All right, guys, so starting off, this is what the car looked like in the pictures from the auction. Yeah, it looks rough. I mean, shit, it looks like it's probably hit pretty bad. But then you start looking at it and you go, okay, well, I've had about 6, 7 of these hit in the front, and on every single one of those cars, this serpentine belt cover was just completely smashed. And when I say I've had 6 or 7 hit in the front, I mean, like, they were very kind of minor damage. The rails were intact. The rad support was bent. But it's very easy to just replace just the rad support and, not have to do all this. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, worst case scenario, this thing needed a rad support. All right, so I'm just looking at it outside. And then, usually another thing that always gets damaged is this pulley here gets pressed in with the fans, kind of the same thing as this cover, just gets smashed in a little bit, and it gets damaged. The belt is usually off of here, just because like I said, it just get pushed back, and then it doesn't ride right, and it ends up riding off. But okay, let's say maybe for some reason this thing wasn't hit up top. Maybe it was hit down low. Well, being a Subaru, this thing's got plenty of indications on the front of it, especially on the motor, because when it's hit down low, with a fairly minor accident, it gets this water pump pulley ends up getting bent. It gets hit right here, or right here, with the fans and with all that. Okay, so that's intact. That's interesting. Another indication is this dipstick tube. That gets hit. Nope, it's completely mint. This dipstick itself, this handle gets broken off. Nope, it's there. When it gets hit on the bottom, this exhaust ends up getting touched, and then it bends it actually, and this exhaust is such thin junk that as soon as it gets hit, the flanges on it bend because they're just sheet metal flanges, and then it gets an exhaust leak. But nope, nothing here is hit. Okay, so maybe it was kind of hit more off to one side. Okay, well, as soon as this thing gets hit in the front, off to the side, or kind of in the front in general, I've always had at least one of these sensors be broken. So, it gets hit, and just this connector here, this plastic, it gets pushed back a little bit, and it still works and everything, but it gets cracked. Nope, all of them are fine. Not a single one is loose. Not a single one has any damage on it. These connectors get smashed. Nope, everything is as it should be. So now I'm thinking like, holy crap, these doesn't seem like this thing was hit very hard. To me, at this point, I'm like, probably the radiator fan was good. Probably even the radiator was good. But you know, I can't prove that just yet. But then I looked inside the car, and as body shops do, they kind of piled a bunch of crap in there that they had, which would have been nice if they gave me the good headlight, but they gave me the one bad headlight. But okay, so I'm like, all right, well, you know, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm crazy. So then I look in the car, and this is the bumper filler. This is just made out of foam. Okay, it's got a tiny bit of damage here, which I don't even know if this was caused by the accident, but even if it was, this is so minor that tells me that the reinforcement bar was intact. This here, the Subaru is great. It's got a bunch of indications. This actually mounts on the bottom of the radiator support. And you know, as soon as the radiator support gets bent, this gets broken. But nope, this is completely intact. Not a single broken tab, nothing. Everything is completely intact. So it wasn't hit on the bottom. It wasn't hit in the middle because the reinforcement is good. It wasn't hit on the bottom because that's good. This piece goes inside the bumper. And it kind of just goes right on the front of this. They kind of like mesh together. And this is completely good. So that means the bottom of the bumper was pretty much intact. Here's the lower grille. It's completely intact. It is slightly bent right here, which, okay, let's say that that's from the accident. Fine, you know, I'll give them that this was probably from the accident, but that's still completely usable. Just heat it up with a heat gun, it'll go right back. And then I came to this piece. This mounts on the top of the radiator support. And it just supports the bumper. It's like a bumper bracket. So essentially, there's a headlight. So one headlight goes here, the other one goes on this side, and this is in the middle, and the bumper sits right on top of it. And I'm like, what the hell? This thing is completely intact. So that tells me that radiators were good. Tells me that the AC condenser was good, the fans were good, everything in this thing was good. So now I'm thinking, well, why the hell did they cut why would they cut the rails? And this being a Subaru, if you cut these rails off, there's no room on here to weld the new ones in. So then you got to pull the motor, and that's what looks like they started doing. They started pulling the wires off of it, pulling, hoses off of it. There's, disconnecting everything, pulling, like I said, hoses off here, hoses off here. So they were gonna pull this motor to weld in a new front end on this thing, which was completely unnecessary. And if you're thinking, well, it's insurance, they got to do it by the book, blah, blah, blah. There's no way that these rails were moved, first of all. Second of all, as soon as people go in there and they start cutting and welding, it's just never going to be as good as original. It's going to rust out. They're not going to coat it 100%, because when you start welding, the paint burns up and, all this. There's no way they would have covered it up and, been able to coat it as well as it was from the factory. So it's not going to be better than it was before, or not going to be better or even as good as it was before the accident. So they just basically cut this whole car up for no reason. And you know, I guess to an insurance shop, they're just gonna pay some dude to sit there and pull this motor and weld these new rails in and do all this and do all that, you know, $25 an hour, while they're charging $100 an hour or so for that work. And then, you know, that's makes sense. They're making $75 an hour just to have some dude wasting time, essentially just completely killing time. Okay, so the hood unfortunately was gone, so they weren't able to fold it up like they did the bumper and stuff it in the car. But here's the bumper. I mean, this side, obviously before they folded it up, was completely intact, no damage at all. This side, this is the damage. This is the car that you had to cut the rails off of. This was from freaking being folded up. This is just incredible to me. Like, there's minor damage on this thing. All right, so here's the fenders then. This fender got a little dent right here. I'm not sure if it's from what it's from, but and there's got a little kink right here, which again, it's hard to tell what came from at this point, because of obviously they didn't put any care into you know, piling this crap in the car. So that's the left side, and the right side is completely intact. Only thing on the right side is it looks like the hood maybe hit this a little bit or something, but that's very common with these cars. As soon as anything, which I'm actually surprised, since that upper part was good. I don't know how the hood could have gotten pushed back, but say it did and that happened. I've had cars that was way worse, and I've actually saved the fender and just put a new hood on it. The hinges are always good on these things. They rarely bend. They're so thick, and just the hood's super thin aluminum, so the hood just ends up ripping like a tuna can, and the hinges end up being fine. But yeah, just completely insane, you guys.